The Milton Keynes Mental Health Alliance is a collective of voluntary organisations from Milton Keynes who are interested in supporting the mental health and well-being of residents in the city. The Alliance has been developed by the team at Community Action MK over the last 2 years as part of the NHS's Community Mental Health Transformation Programme. Central North West London Health Trust are responsible for the Community Transformation Programme, and the Mental Health Alliance is how they work with the voluntary and community sector and fund work in the community.
It's all about making changes, making sure that people are getting the right treatments at the right time in the right place. We need to continue to build our relationship with our partners. I do think that the Alliance is a conduit for us to do that. It's really important for the transformation that we make sure that we're offering services, or we're transforming all services across Milton Keynes to offer support for people with mental health issues.
So Mind BLMK, being a mental health charity in the area, felt it was really important to really understand what a mental health alliance should look like in Milton Keynes. And therefore we worked with Community Action MK from the beginning, the initial proposal around mental health alliances, really in the early stages, trying to understand what the local area would really need in order to pull together all of the voluntary sector organisations so that they can really support the mental health transformation agenda, doing what they do best, but having an opportunity to do that in a joined up way and in a partnership way.
To bring together all those different organisations and for them to be part of the development of that model was amazing from Community Action MK. And the benefit is that across Milton Keynes, all those different smaller organisations now have a voice. They can help inform and influence services. And actually being an NHS organisation, and I'm an NHS commissioner, that can often be quite tricky and is not something that we've necessarily been very good at. And so this gives you a model and a framework to be able to distribute finances and money to those organisations that potentially wouldn't have had access to that before. And with that means that we can have some really creative and innovative ways of working. So being able to reach minority groups, certain faith groups, community sectors that don't access NHS and statutory organisations that would potentially seek support from a voluntary sector organisation.
A big part of the work of the Alliance is reducing health inequalities. We've been supporting 2 really interesting projects, one working with ethnic minority communities and one working with LGBTQ+ community members. And the aim of the project really is to understand, by gathering lived experience data, what the barriers and the issues are when accessing mental health services, and coming up with ideas about how this experience might be improved.
Hi, we are the Wisdom Principle CIC, and we work at the intersection of faith, culture and mental health.
My name is Naomi and this is Grace, and today you find us at HFC tournament. We're here because our research has told us that people, our BME community, want us to connect with them in places where they feel comfortable. And so at a football game, people are relaxed and we've been able to have conversations to raise mental health awareness. So for the health inequalities, we've been going to churches, we've been going to community groups, we've been speaking one-on-one with people to find out how they experience health inequalities in terms of access, experience and outcomes. And we have some few findings, which is, again, that people want to feel comfortable and confident when they're talking about mental health. That might mean that we have to go to them rather than ask them to come to us.
They want people to be able to use language that's accessible to them, so using layman's language, and because we recognize in most languages you may not have a direct translation of anxiety, depression or mental health. But actually that doesn't mean that they don't speak about it, they don't experience it. In fact, there is a lot in there, but actually it's giving space and time to dissect that, to be able to come up with a response that is mutually beneficial for both groups. So that's what we've been doing. We work with groups to talk about solutions that make sense to them and that are helpful from a psychological perspective.
Q Alliance is an LGBTQ+ specific charity. So some of the projects we've been running over the past year, along with the funding from the Mental Health Alliance, we had an exhibition which was part of an 8-week adult art programme, and this looked at exploring different artistic styles as a way to help support the development and progress of mental health in adults. We had some really fantastic feedback, enjoying the fact that, mental health isn't always just a sit-down conversation about all the difficulties you're currently facing. We've done loads of corporate engagement over the past year thanks to the funding and support. We've had a social space that we ran every Tuesday evening, and we started with about 3 to 4 attendees in February, and over the summer holidays we saw that increase to 30, and on average week by week we're looking at about 15 to 18 attendees. And some of the results from that is we're hearing a lot of people just celebrate this idea that they're able to come together in these safe and inclusive spaces.
We're really keen to make sure that we're providing the right support in the communities that matter and that meet the needs of those communities. We've been doing a lot of joint work with MK Alliance, which has been a real opportunity to involve the voluntary sector in some of the strategic work that we've been doing. It gives a real opportunity for some smaller voluntary groups to be involved in the bigger mental health provision within Milton Keynes, and that work has been absolutely phenomenal and something that we want to continue with.
For me, what's been really interesting about the Mental Health Alliance is that it's generated a completely different set of relationships between the public sector and the voluntary sector. And I think for the last 4 or 5 years, maybe longer, we've been in what I would call a transactional relationship with the public sector, where essentially they decide the sorts of things they want to get done, they put out exactly how that's going to happen, and they say how much money is available, and then the voluntary sector or other groups sign up if they're happy, and that makes a way forward to them. This group working with the Mental Health Alliance, it really is an alliance. It's become much, much more collaborative in the relationship, and there's been this co-creation of how we're going to address issues, how we're going to measure what the outcomes might be, and the funding has been given much more openly to generate that thinking. The public sector organisations have recognised how much they need what the voluntary sector brings. There's been this recognition that voluntary groups have novel relationships with local communities of interest and geography, that they also have novel and different ways of addressing particular needs. The infrastructure organisation, Milton Keynes Community Action, they've got the connections with all these small groups, the many and the small, which is a challenge for the public sector to relate to, but through an organisation like Community Action, they can be brought together. Voluntary groups are often forced to compete with each other for contracts and through tendering processes, and it doesn't encourage them to work together. But what's been interesting is the way in which several community groups have come together to put forward ideas to the Alliance about how they could work together to deliver more effective ways of supporting communities, and that's been really fascinating. Hopefully other public sector organisations might come and develop working in the same model with the voluntary sector. If we can show that this way works well and is effective, then hopefully others will try it too.